Italian pasta could disappear in store shelves soon. A dine-and-dash influencer arrested, and Thanksgiving AI-slop recipes ruining one of the most important food holidays of the year. All that and more in today's Repertoire Report. My name is Ray DeLucci. Justin is off this week, and here we go. Before we get into this episode, just a thank you for all the engagement, views, likes, comments over the last few weeks. This has been some of the best weeks regarding content performance since I've started with Justin on Repertoire Report. So thank you all for watching and listening. If you are new to the channel, please subscribe, hit the like button, and share with your friends in the culinary industry. So we will start this off with a story that I think everyone should kind of be aware of just because of how important it could be or it could turn out to be. So New York Times has pasta at twice the price. Some Italian producers face huge US tariffs. So what is going on in this story? So basically, what is happening is consumers are set to feel a fast increase in authentic Italian pasta imported from Italy to the United States, and it could even become a luxury product. This is due to the fact that the Trump administration could be leveling huge tariffs against Italian pasta makers, dozens of them, accused of dumping their product in the United States. Quote, companies have been accused of selling their products in the United States at artificially low prices and not cooperating with an investigation by the U.S. Department of Commerce. Their penalty could be a 91.74% anti-dumping duty. For the companies, the investigation that they're under right now by the administration is, quote, bewildering. There's a article in Grub Street. We can't stop serving baked ziti. New York's Italian delis are adjusting to the threat of a pasta apocalypse. So everything that's going on is they have this one person, Joe's Deli, or this one restaurant, Joe's Deli. They say the management is more concerned with what happens to prepared foods, where the effects of any increased costs would be amplified. Quote, if we've been charging $50 or $55 for a baked ziti, and now we have to charge $75, it's just not something we're willing to do to our customers. We can't stop serving the baked ziti. It's almost like telling a pizza place you can't do pizza. The Trump administration is set to increase tariffs on these Italian pasta importers. And why they're doing that is that, like I said, they say they're basically inflating prices lowly. So these tariffs would have a percentage of over 100%. One Guardian piece framed it that shoppers are genuinely worried they'll lose access to the real stuff, and some are calling pasta their personal one-issue voter concern. Another big factor in this is Italy's food industry relies heavily on U.S. pasta imports, and the backlash there has been loud, with politicians, manufacturers, and trade groups warning this could strain U.S.-EU relations even further. And for many people, pasta isn't just a commodity, it's an emblem of Italian heritage. So cutting off that pipeline seems to be a bad decision. So if we look at the proposed tariff, so there is a preliminary 92% anti-dumping duty on pasta from 13 Italian manufacturers, which will be added on top of the existing 15% tariff on EU imports. The U.S. Commerce Department alleges these companies are dumping, and the final decision is expected in January 2026. So what does this all mean for you and me? So for many European companies, authenticity is valued most above all else. So losing that could be a big deal for not only just restaurants, but grocery stores and producers that rely heavily on Italian products. There's a story in the New York Times reported that the United States first imposed anti-dumping tariffs on Italian pasta producers about 30 years ago. This is kind of the background of this. At the behest of American companies, the Department of Commerce routinely investigates Italian producers for cheaply selling pasta. This year, an investigation was requested by two American companies, 8th Avenue Food and Provisions, which owns Ronzoni Pasta, and Winland Foods, which makes pasta under several brands, including San Giorgio and Prince. For them, it was a routine request. The brands owned by Winland Foods have requested anti-dumping investigations for decades. They both declined to comment on this. The Commerce Department looked at the sales of Garofalo and La Molisana, another large Italian pasta producer, from July 2023 to June 2024. The department says that the companies had failed to provide the requested information and that therefore a penalty tariff would be imposed, but it would also apply to nearly a dozen other companies, including some of the country's largest producers, including big names, as you know, Rumo and, of course, Barilla, which would be insane if the tariffs hit this. So the Italian government and European Commission have intervened and made direct appeals to American officials, while speculation has grown about the political motivations for the tariffs. Mr. Desai, the White House spokesman, said in a statement that the companies were at fault. Quote, after they screwed up their initial responses, the Commerce Department explained to them that what the problems were and asked them to fix those problems. They didn't, he said. And then Commerce communicated the requirements again, and they didn't answer for a third time. He did add that companies still had several months to engage with the review before the duties would be final. Still, the threat of punishing tariffs hangs over them. And so if we get to January and these tariffs are leveled, it could change like how consumers in the United States get Italian pasta. It could change how we're serving it in restaurants. It's just going to be a mess. Quoting from Grub Street, if the pasta tariff goes through, Kathy Coluccio Fazzolari of Borough Park's D. Coluccio and Sons says customers won't only be impacted by higher prices. Quote, the other problem is that all the duty has to be paid in advance or when the shipment arrives, she explains. A lot of small players are not going to be able to pay in advance for these large quantities of pasta. For customers who just want to make some authentic cacio e pepe at home, that means paying $10 to $11 for a box of spaghetti wouldn't even be an option since the spaghetti wouldn't get to the shelves at all. So even if people were willing to pay, these companies, these smaller importers won't even be able to sell them. I mean, it's just going to be a mess if this gets implemented. If in January 2026 the United States, the administration goes through with these tariffs or with this policy, you will see major brands such as Barilla not being on shelves in many different issues, or you will see prices skyrocket on pasta. So some takeaways, in my opinion. So Italian pasta might become a premium or even inaccessible product. So if these tariffs get put into place, you might not even have access to this stuff. If it comes January 2026 and this policy is pursued, the cost of bringing the pasta in goes over 100%. You might see this as a premium product. Delis and Italian restaurants are going to be scrambling to adapt. I mean, if you've ever worked in an Italian restaurant, if you ever worked anywhere where you rely on international products, like I think that's a big thing too as well. Like if we're like looking at our food supply and our food supply chain, like it's not a bad thing to want things from different countries. I would love die cut Italian pasta from Italy. Like I want French wines. Like all of that stuff is super integral to having it in a dining experience that's fluid and delicious and offering the best product. So if you take that away, you lose something in the industry. And then this could also foreshadow a trend where everyday imported foods become volatile due to geopolitical policy, cheeses, olive oils, wines, anything could happen. So basically, the pasta apocalypse is what they're calling it. The pasta apocalypse coming in January 2026. If this happens, if this is put through, could have massive impacts for your restaurant, for businesses, for grocery stores. And yeah, I mean, and the New York Times, I would highly recommend reading this article. It's really well done. It was published on November 17th by Ash Nelson. And they go on to follow this Garofalo, which is a company in Italy making pasta that comes to America. And they say that the pasta made by Garofalo is destined for American kitchens, which make up about a fifth of the company's sales, and this could really impact them. And again, just to be clear, facing more than 100% tariffs on their exports to the United States, which could make their pasta prohibitively expensive. The anti-dumping duty, all of that. I mean, it's just going to be crazy to see. It's going to be crazy. Personally, I don't know what to make of it in terms of is it going to go through. I think it's an awful idea, to be quite honest. Italian products like this, like we need them. We're an international food system. If you're an Italian restaurant, if you've ever worked in a Italian grocery store, like these products sell super well. They're the backbones of a lot of businesses. So losing this would be highly controversial. So let me hear your thoughts. Do you expect or plan on seeing a pasta apocalypse in January 2026? It'll be interesting to see. I will be following the story closely, and Justin and I will update you on this. All right. Next up, we've talked a lot about Chipotle over the last few weeks, and I think a lot of our conversation, if you've been following along, we've covered a lot about Chipotle. We've covered a lot about marketing to young people and how BOGO deals are the new it factor to target young people. And would you know, something is happening with Chipotle. So if we look at this article here from Nation's Restaurant News, their article by Alicia Kelso says, Chipotle targets younger customers with Thanksgiving deals. The Back Home BOGO offers a free entree with the purchase of a full-priced entree for in-store customers. So obviously Thanksgiving's coming up this week, and Chipotle wants to be a part of the night before Thanksgiving celebrations, which is typically one of the biggest reunion nights of the year for young adults returning home from college. It's a really, really smart, really, really focused campaign. So when this episode publishes, the 26th, the chain's in-restaurant Back Home BOGO deal will be available from November 26th from 4 p.m. until closing. Quote, for many of our guests, their hometown Chipotle is where they've created countless memories, and this Thanksgiving Eve, it's a destination where reunions can begin, President and Chief Brand Officer Chris Brandt said in a statement. Whether you're grabbing dinner with your childhood friends or kicking off the holiday early with relatives, Our back home BOGO makes it easy to bring people together with real food. Additionally, Chipotle is removing delivery fees on orders placed through its app and website from November 28th through December 1st with the code CYBER25 Cyber25, all caps. Again, they are removing delivery fees on orders placed through its app and website from November 28th through December 1st with Cyber25. Great note for you all trying to save some money. And finally, the chain is offering a $10 off a build your own Chipotle meal for customers celebrating Friendsgiving. The digital exclusive meal, introduced in August, was designed to serve 4 to 6 people and is ready for pickup in about 15 minutes. Each order includes one protein, choice of chicken, steak, braised beef, barbacoa, carnitas, or tofu sofritas, one rice, one bean, one side, choice of 3 salsa toppings, shredded romaine lettuce and cheese, and 2 large bags of chips. This discount is available using the code TRYBYOC through December 31st. And these come as Chipotle works to recover from slower sales and negative traffic throughout the year. During the company's third quarter earnings call in late October, Chief Executive Officer Scott Boatwright said younger consumers between the ages of 25 and 35, and with whom the chain over-indexes, are scaling back from restaurants significantly. Quote, "We're not losing that customer. They're just coming less often. We're not losing them to competition. We're losing them to grocery and food at home. That consumer is under pressure and they feel the pinch and we feel the pullback. We know with the right activations, we can get them back to the business." So, like I said, we've covered Chipotle a lot. And the reason why is it's important. Chipotle has been this inflection restaurant, it seems like. If you go on social media, if you go on TikTok, Instagram, Reels, virality around Chipotle is that they have more of a negative sentiment. There's a negative sentiment that you are seeing with Chipotle. And the reason you're seeing that is because a lot of customers have been outpriced. And they have accurately assessed that 25 through 34-year-olds are their key demographic that are being outpriced. They're not going to restaurants as much. They don't have as much flexible spending money. So they also have seen, and what we've seen is that buy one, get one deals in this demographic work really well. And each demographic has a different marketing or sales pitch to them, with this one being the most important for 25 to 34-year-olds. So I think it's really smart. You know, we've talked a lot about their negatives, about the failures that Chipotle has had, but to have a deal for Thanksgiving, the night before Thanksgiving, where you can go get yourself a Friendsgiving meal and, you know, have this ability to get it for cheap and enjoy it with friends and family is awesome. To be able to have deals and like delivery fees turned off for a certain amount of time is amazing. Just targeting and really trying to ingratiate yourself back into a consumer base that you've lost through whether it be menu pricing or menu build outs or how you approach your marketing. So I truly am interested in Chipotle because I think they are a good case study for what happens when you lose a brand or a generation of consumers that built your brand. What happens when you lose them and what you do to get them back. Giving they're a big corporation, they could be a good case study and roadmap for restaurants that fall out of favor sometimes with their general audience. So if you partake in Chipotle's Thanksgiving deals, please let me know. I'd love to hear it. The back home BOGO deal is going to be big for them. So again, I would love to hear that if you're using it. So let's stay on Thanksgiving and let's talk about a pretty crazy story that I was reading. This one comes out of Bloomberg. This was published on November 25th, 2025 by Davey Alba and Carmen Arroyo. And the title is AI-slop recipes are taking over the internet and Thanksgiving dinner. Quote, food bloggers see traffic dip as home cooks turn to AI inspired by impossible pictures. So basically they go on to say that, quote, Gargano has been writing recipes online long enough to anticipate the seasonal rhythms of her web traffic. The easy peasy foodie creator can predict when U.S. readers begin searching for her stress-free turkey instructions or when her Christmas cake will start its annual climb up Google search results. This year, those patterns are breaking. Instead of sending home cooks to her decade-old well-tested recipes, Google increasingly inserts AI-generated summaries stitched together from bits of her work and others that often get the basics wrong. An AI-assembled version of Gargano's Christmas cake, for instance, would have people cooking a 6-inch cake for 3 to 4 hours at 320 degrees Fahrenheit. Quote, you'd end up with charcoal, she said. Meanwhile, traffic to her turkey recipe is already down 40% year over year. Recipe bloggers like Gargano said it's the first holiday season where consumers are starting to trust AI answers and search and chatbots, as well as recipe content remixed by AI, which can be hard to distinguish from the real thing. It's not just bad for business, it's potentially ruinous for a holiday dinner table if home cooks, inspired by pretty AI-generated photos, try recipes that turn out unappetizing or that defy the laws of chemistry. In interviews, 22 independent food creators said that AI generated, quote, recipe slop is distorting nearly every way people find cooking advice online, damaging their businesses while causing consumers to waste time and money. Across the internet, writers say their vetted recipes are hidden by the flood. Pinterest feeds are stuffed with AI generated images of food that the attached instructions don't even achieve. Google's AI overviews surface error filled cooking steps that siphon away clicks from professionals. Meanwhile, Facebook content farms use AI generated images of supposedly delicious but impossible dishes to the top of people's feeds in an attempt to turn any clicks into ad revenue. All this, food bloggers say, erodes the simple promise of a recipe that someone has actually cooked it before you have. To Gargano, this is the core issue. No matter how clever the AI is, she says, it can never actually test a recipe in a real kitchen and see how it works. So, this is just a crazy, crazy story. This goes on for a while. This is a very lengthy and involved Bloomberg article. If you're all interested, if you're in food media, if you're a chef, if you just want to see like how general consumers, which I found interesting, the fact that, you have people who don't know how to cook or, maybe have some cooking skills but are looking for recipes. And they're just Google searching and you'll see like the Gemini bot, or maybe they're looking in ChatGPT, and they'll just get a recipe that AI has kind of hobbled together without any real like understanding of if it's going to be useful, if it's going to create the right product, if it's even going to turn out correctly. I think Justin and I, when ChatGPT came out, we've discussed, we put some things in, we got some crazy answers. And I just want to like say, be for anyone out there who doesn't know how to cook or isn't like really well versed in cooking for recipes, be careful. Like, try to see where your sources are. If you find a recipe online that seems too good to be true, it probably is. You want to make sure that the person you get the recipe from is real. You don't want it to just be some AI slop that's been put together. And this just continues this trend of AI kind of overtaking everything in food in different ways that are just really kind of annoying and really also affect obviously food bloggers, but this also affects like the joy of cooking for people. Like, imagine you go out, you buy all these ingredients, you get to your kitchen and you follow this supposed recipe that you found online that has been supposedly reviewed really well. And you get there and you make charcoal cookies, like, or you make something that's like totally inedible. And like, you're crunched on time, you can't go back to the grocery store, or if you have to, like, it's full, and you're just your occasion is ruined. Cooking is meant to be something for others, to bring joy and to be there for a special occasion like a Thanksgiving, like a Christmas. And if your holiday's ruined because of an AI slop recipe, I can't imagine something more unfortunate. That is just awful. So if you're watching, you don't know how to cook, please ensure you are sourcing your recipes correctly. Do not just go off of what Google puts together in your search or what ChatGPT puts in your AI bot. Tested recipes by real professionals is the way to go. And unfortunately, I can't believe we're saying that in the year 2025, but that is where AI has led. And for cooks and for chefs, like, be aware of this. If you have recipes online or you have guidelines online, please be aware of how they're being used or portrayed, if you even have the ability to track it. I find it kind of scary and worrisome. It's like, there's no copyright law on recipes. There's no copyright law on taking this stuff. But at what point, and this almost goes back, I'm reading a book right now by Jay Kristoff. He's an author. And he was one of, I think, like millions of authors whose works were used by Meta's AI chatbots or large language models to basically farm and create different content without their permission, without their ability to say yes or no to the project. And I think that the same thing is happening to chefs, to recipe developers, to food creators online. The overreach of AI, the ability to just take, and not give back or not offer any sort of, compensation, or even just, sharing the source of what you've done. It's really, really sad, and it's really scary. And I just hope we don't see a holiday season this year too ruined by the slop recipes. So a PSA, if you are cooking a recipe online, make sure it is not generated by an AI bot, because odds are it's not going to work out, or it will not be as good as someone who's made it. So we will stay on Thanksgiving. This is coming out of CNN. And they're saying that restaurant reservations spike for Thanksgiving as grocery store prices bite. So if you've been watching a Repertoire report the last few weeks, or even the last few months, you'll know that we've talked about how restaurant prices have been going up, and they've been kind of pricing out a lot of consumers, and how grocery was kind of like made more sense for a lot of people. If you watched our full length episode last week with Justin, though, you will know we reported on the National Restaurant Association's Menu Price Index and the Restaurant Performance Index. And we saw that actually menu prices at restaurants were actually, the rate that they were going up was decreasing drastically, while grocery was doing the opposite, where grocery store prices are now going up drastically. And I went ahead and I just looked at the National Restaurant Association report for October, and actually the restaurant performance index went up 0.4% for October. So restaurants kind of had a rebound moment in October. So, well, culturally, there's a vibe that restaurants are really expensive and groceries cheaper. That's already flipped like in the real data. It's gonna flip culturally in the next month or two. So be prepared for that. And you could see an influx of people going back to restaurants over grocery items. And that leads us into this story by CNN. Quote, whether it's due to the stress or financial burden of planning a multi-course meal, an increasing number of people are choosing to eat out for Thanksgiving this year. Restaurant reservations for Thursday's holiday are 13% higher year over year, according to exclusive data shared by OpenTable, a booking platform that encompasses more than 60,000 locations. Thanksgiving arrives at a time when the cost of groceries is climbing for several reasons, including tariffs, policy crackdowns, extreme weather, and affecting the food supply. Prices rose in August at the fastest pace in 3 years and increased again in September, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. It's unlikely people seeking lower Thanksgiving costs will get them at restaurants, which tend to be more expensive than eating at home. Restaurant prices are rising faster than overall inflation and much faster than grocery prices, too, according to the BLS. The National Restaurant Association said menu prices in September rose at their slowest monthly increase since February 2024. Remember, we reported that last week. We cover all this stuff. A Repertoire report, we look at the data. We look at restaurant menu prices. We look at the overall health of the restaurant industry. So if you are looking for a spot where you can track the health of restaurants, we are your channel. We are your podcast to do that. And you are seeing it now being reported in different outlets. We're not breaking that news, but I just simply say that Justin and I, do pride ourselves, or we like to pride ourselves, on doing a really good job of staying up to date with data and being able to make predictions as the year goes on. Quote, this could make eating out an attractive alternative for consumers, especially with some chains offering prefix deals. So Olo, a catering platform, told CNN it's seen a nearly 1,000 increase in orders this year compared to last year, and it's partly because of high grocery prices. So they share that the average cost of preparing a Thanksgiving dinner for 10 people declined this year for the third holiday in a row, the American Farm Bureau Federation recently said, falling 5% to $5.52 per person. However, they said that the prices have not fully recovered from the record high reached in 2022, and a lot of this is being driven on the price of turkey this year. So, what does this mean? We've been covering and saying how restaurants have been expensive. People are going for grocery or opting to go for grocery more. It might start to flip. This holiday season, you will see a flip. The data is showing that restaurants are kind of making a little bit of a rebound for the end of the year. They're getting busy with the holidays. And I think by Christmas, consumers will be like, maybe they're going back out to eat a little more because grocery prices are rising, and will the vibes that going out to eat is just too expensive. While true, it is still expensive, but the vibes that there's an alternative in grocery that's really like that gap is huge is going to start to shrink. That's my prediction over the next month. We have some interesting stories. I wanted to say that this is like one of the most interesting story weeks I've seen in a while. So the first one. So you all know the Campbell's soup. I grew up on their chicken noodle soup, their chunky soup, and they are in a lot of hot water right now. And if you're wondering why, well, this was reported yesterday. This is out of the Washington Post. Quote, Campbell's executive says products are for poor people, mocks Indians' lawsuit claims. A former employee brought a discrimination complaint claiming he was fired after reporting the executive's behavior. So, quote, a senior executive of the Campbell's company has been placed on leave after a lawsuit filed by a former employee alleges he disparaged the company's products and made offensive remarks about poor people. Also made remarks about Indian coworkers. Martin Bally, a vice president and chief information security officer at the food giant, said during a meeting that Campbell's products were, quote, highly processed food for, quote, poor people. He also allegedly said, this is all allegedly, that Indian employees were idiots whom he disliked working with, according to the employment discrimination complaint filed by Robert Garza, a former cybersecurity analyst for the company. Garza said in the lawsuit that he was fired after telling a supervisor about the comments and that he planned to report them to the Human Resources Department. Garza's attorney provided the Washington Post with a lengthy recording of a conversation in which Bally can allegedly be heard complaining about an incident during which employees couldn't be reached in a technical emergency. I'm not going to share what he says. It's pretty offensive. Yeah, if you the link is in the post, you can read it there. This person, if this is true, which allegedly it is, quite disgusting and should not be in a leadership position at any company, let alone one such as big as Campbell's. He also can be allegedly heard in this recording suggesting that the company's soups possibly use bioengineered meat. Quote, I don't buy Campbell's products anymore. The person Garza alleges, as Bally says in the recording, quote, I don't want to eat a, quote, piece of chicken that came from a 3D printer. Campbell's goes on to say that in an email statement that Bally had been placed on leave temporarily while the company carried out an investigation, adding that any claims that the company did not use, quote, real chicken in its products were false. If the comments attributed to Bally were in fact made, they are unacceptable. They do not reflect our values and the culture of our company. Garza, who worked remotely for the New Jersey-based company, filed the employment discrimination suit Thursday in Michigan's Wayne County Circuit Court, alleging that his contract was abruptly terminated after he raised concerns about Bally's remarks, the lawsuit says. The suit names the Campbell Soup Company, Bally, and Garza's supervisor, J.D. Opperell, as defendants. The Post was unable to reach Opperell for the comment. Garza said he met with Bally at a restaurant in November 2024, expecting to discuss his salary. Instead, he heard a lengthy tirade from Bally, which he secretly recorded because he had an instinct that something wasn't right with Merton. In Michigan, it is legal for someone to record a conversation in which they are participant without the other person's permission. Garza reported his concerns to Opperell on January 10th, but his manager did not encourage Garza to report the incident to Human Resources or direct him on how to proceed. And then on January 30th, his employment was abruptly terminated. This goes on even further. After the news of the lawsuit emerged, Florida Attorney General James Meyer said the state bans lab-grown meat and its Consumer Protection Division would start an investigation and, quote, demand answers from Campbell's. The company, which changed its name from Campbell's Soup Co. to Campbell's last November to better reflect its range of brands, said it was proud of the food it makes, and the comments about the products are completely inaccurate and absurd. Quote, we use 100% real chicken in our soups, the statement said, adding that the chicken comes from approved suppliers, and claims to the contrary are completely false. Quote, the person alleged to be speaking on the recording works in IT and has nothing to do with how we make our food. The company, founded in 1869 and known for its red and white branded soups, made $103 billion in net sales in the most recent fiscal year and employs 137,000 people across North America, according to his website. And that is a crazy story. I'll say this, a couple of things. First of all, if this Bally person has allegedly said this, I mean, obviously a disgusting person to be working at a company like this, but to have disdain for the customers you create product for is insane. I mean, like that's wild. It's like to think like you are a key figure, you're a key leader in this business. Campbell Soup, which is a huge company that is super old and well respected and a staple for so many American diners, to have that disdain for those customers is wild. To have disdain for the people you lead is wild. And it's just an awful, awful moment and look for Campbell's. Their stock price wasn't affected too much. They're a huge company. This tirade, whatever this was by this person, has opened them up to, state level investigations, possibly federal investigations, and just a ton of poor criticism or bad criticism and a ton of bad PR. So if all this is allegedly true, obviously this person needs to, be gone from this role. But furthermore, again, it's shocking that someone that has such a high profile position at a place like Campbell's has such disdain for consumers that enjoy their product or that rely on their product or need their product. Again, Campbell's, it is a staple. It's a necessity for so many Americans. And it's like to just have that disdain is wild. So we'll keep you updated on anything going on. But if you've heard of any Campbell Soup drama, that is the story going on right now. So to piggyback off of the absolutely crazy week of stories that we have, next up is coming from New York Times and a couple other outlets where they're saying a dine-and-dash influencer was arrested recently. So Pei Chung, a self-styled influencer in New York City, has allegedly been scamming upscale restaurants, ordering expensive multi-course meals, documenting them like a foodie review, then walking out without paying. As of late November 2025, she has been arrested multiple times and is now jailed on charges of theft of services. So this is coming from the New York Times, especially important from them because this is all happening and it seems to be the New York City. So here we go. The article is called "She's Clearly Playing Us." Influencer dine-and-dash through Williamsburg. So at Motorino Pizza in Williamsburg, Brooklyn, she lingered for 4 hours over 2 pizzas, one with clam and one with soppressata and extra mushrooms, as well as an octopus and potato salad, oven-roasted chicken wings, 2 lattes, tiramisu, and a hot tea. She was, quote, doing the influencer thing, the owner said, using a high-resolution camera to take pictures of the meal, before boxing up the leftovers in a to-go bag she had wrapped in a silk Burberry scarf. Around the corner at Francie, a Michelin-starred brassiere, she raved on Instagram about the herbaceous, bold, harmonious Colorado lamb and the roasted leeks and beetroot, which lend sweetness and depth and said the plating echoes fine art. Just blocks away at Hole in the Wall, she ordered burrata toast, burrata salad, bucatini carbonara, and pan-seared salmon, which she photographed along with her handbags. All this content would fit comfortably with the dross routinely churned out by social media influencers in 2025. But the woman who ordered these lavish meals and then posted about them on her glossy Instagram page, Pei Yun Chung, has distinguished herself by not paying her bills at restaurants near her apartment in Williamsburg, according to the police. Her case has inflamed a discussion in the industry about influencers demanding too much of restaurant owners who in many cases are already stretched thin. Again, this is all allegedly. So the New York Times shares, since October 22nd, Miss Chung, age 35, has been arrested and charged with misdemeanor theft of services 7 times, the police said, after she refused to pay for 2 meals at Francie and 1 each at Lavender Lake, Mole Mexican Bar and Grill, Sea Thai Brooklyn, Motorina Pizza, and Misi, an Italian restaurant where a host said she just left after dining at the bar. And then they share a post here. This is from the Instagram page she uses. And it says, my shot on 1-star Michelin Francie. And it has a bunch of, technical things with the camera and whatnot. But she basically highlights the bucatini Amitriana last month. She also raved about the herbaceous, bold, harmonious Colorado lamb. I did go to this Instagram. I did see all this. Comments on posts are limited. Many people commenting, why are you dining and dashing? So at first, it felt nice to have someone who takes a lot of pictures, said Liad Madahu, general manager at 12 Chairs Cafe, an Israeli restaurant where Miss Chung photographed her dinner of tabbouleh, lamb kebab, falafel, and salad on November 17th. They even gave her free dessert, which is crazy. But then Miss Chung said she could not pay and the restaurant let her leave. Soon after, she posted photos of her meal on Instagram and tagged the cafe in her stories. Influencers, quote, always call before or schedule with our marketing person. It's never unexpected. You don't do it this way. That's not how it works. Miss Chung did not respond to an email, and lawyers representing her did not respond to messages. She was arraigned on Saturday on her most recent charge of not paying her $149 bill at Mole on Friday, and a judge sent a $1,500 bail in that case and in 2 previous ones, in which she was charged with failing to pay her $100 bill at Misi on November 14th and her $223 bill at Sea Thai Brooklyn on November 15th. She's being held at the Rikers Island jail complex in lieu of a $4,500 cash bail on Tuesday. With just 26,000 followers on Instagram, Miss Chung has a smaller following and much less engagement than most restaurant-hopping food influencers in New York. She was also apparently at Peter Luger, and they didn't respond to messages, but apparently Miss Chung posted photos of the medium rare steak, cream spinach, and roasted mushrooms she ordered there. And basically, there's someone here, Mr. Palambino, who's quoted saying, it happens sometimes that somebody comes in and says, look, I don't have money. Usually we let it slide if it's a desperate situation. But to be taking pictures with a high-resolution camera and an Hermes scarf is a little bit different. She's clearly playing us. At Francie, Miss Chung took photos of the lamb, foie gras cannelé, and hot chocolate mousse she ordered last month. But when the $188 bill arrived, she said she was waiting for money from her family, said John Winterman, an owner of Francie. She was allowed to leave with the understanding that she would come back and pay, he said. Instead, she emailed photos she had taken of her meal and offered those of payment, which the restaurant declined. The restaurant contacted the police, who said she could be arrested again if she showed up at Francie. On November 7th, Miss Chung ordered $83 of food at the bar, and the restaurant called the police. She was then arrested next to a crowd of patrons who were completely unconcerned. They just kept eating and drinking. Word of her exploits, fanned by coverage in the New York Post, has spread among restaurant workers in Williamsburg. Restaurants to inform them that this is what's happening, and this is the picture if she comes in. And then some have tried to avoid causing a scene. So they end the article saying, even though Miss Chung didn't pay, Mr. Ralph said her notoriety may have helped the restaurant anyway. Quote, she's giving us more exposure than any one of these influencers we've actually coordinated with. Even after we took her food away, she posted about it, saying it was nice. What a wild story. I think this story shows a couple things. I think it shows, the first thing that jumped out at me when reading this story about this dine-and-dash influencer, just a crazy story, is restaurant owners give a lot of grace. How many examples in this New York Times article did we talk about a restaurant saying, okay, you can pay it later if you don't have the money, don't worry about it, we'll honor the meal, we understand that times are tough, or maybe you forgot your wallet or something, you can come back and pay for it. How many times that happened and she still just got away with it? The second thing is the idea of just dining and dashing. while having 26,000 followers on Instagram. To have that many followers on Instagram and do something so blatantly illegal where people can track you, find you, like I don't understand. Obviously, there's something wrong here, but to just like go and have a lifestyle where you're not even paying for the food and like I don't know, like some of these restaurants might have been willing to like work with her on some things to get exposure. But instead you just dine and dash and consistently do it and consistently use your like own name and your own like social media presence with like over 20K followers on Instagram. It's just what a wild what a wild story. And lastly, just the incentives that social media has on people to go out and gain followers and try to get this clout and try to build on social media by doing things that are unethical or not right. It is astounding. It is crazy. It again shows that restaurant people and restaurant owners are some of the most understanding sometimes for their customers and will like usually like do what they need to help help someone out. It also just shows that we are in a broken society around food and that some people will do things and go to the lengths such as this. I think maybe the positive is that you saw at the end that some of this exposure has actually helped some restaurants. But what a wild story. Would love to hear your thoughts on it. And if you know of any dine and dash influencers, I'd love to hear that as well. All right, a couple quick things before we get out of here. So the first up is going to be this story out of Nebraska. So this is coming out of Food Dive, and I thought this was important because we covered beef prices a while ago, specifically with Tyson. Tyson had a big beef price fixing scandal that we covered a while ago, and we just got news that they are going to shutter a major beef plant in Nebraska amid U.S. cattle shortage. Quote, the meat packer is set to lay off more than 3,200 workers and cut production at a Texas facility as it positions the business for long-term success. This is Sarah Zimmerman as the editor. So they go on to say that Tyson is making cuts as U.S. cattle herds are at a 75-year low, according to the USDA, with many ranchers hesitant to rebuild after years of climate challenges and tough economics. The resurgence of a flesh-eating pest called the New World screwworm has also further threatened supply and made it more difficult for the U.S. to import beef. Beef prices have soared as a result, with the cost of ground beef exceeding $6 per pound as of September. The dynamics have pressured earnings for some of the largest meat packers, who are now paying more for beef and looking for ways to offset these costs. While Tyson's beef sales have risen due to rising prices, executives acknowledged to investors earlier this month that higher cattle costs outpaced the higher sales. To address those challenges, the company plans on prioritizing efficiency, reducing costs, and introducing innovative products, quoted from CEO Donnie King. Tyson's beef plant in Lexington had the capacity to process 5,000 head of cattle per day, which is nearly 5% of the daily U.S. beef slaughter. The plant, which has been in operation since 1990, produces cuts of fresh beef, such as ribs, loins, chucks, and rounds, as well as various ground beef products. In 2015, Tyson invested $47 million to expand the plant, calling it an important part of our beef business. In 2022, the meat giant also announced a $200 million investment in the Amarillo, Texas plant, also one of the largest in the company's network. The unfortunate reality of this, per Food Dive, is closing plants can upend rural communities where meat packers are often the largest employer. The Lexington plant is expected to affect 3,200 jobs in a community with a population of 11,000 people. Just awful, awful. Nebraska U.S. Senator Deb Fischer said she was extremely disappointed by the Tyson closure. Quote, Nebraska is the beef state, and we know better than anyone the highs and lows of the cattle market. It's no secret that just a few years ago, packers like Tyson were making windfall profits while the rest of the industry was continuously in the red, she says in a statement. Lawmakers have previously stepped in to try and force meat packers to rethink closures. Tyson's plans to close 2 poultry plants in Missouri sparked fear from the state and prompted Senator Josh Hawley to introduce a bill to break up poultry monopolies. Nebraska Governor Jim Pillen said in a statement the state's cattle industry is resilient, adding that Tyson promised to work on future value-added opportunities in the state. Big picture, our excellent cattlemen and cattle feeders have emerging opportunities, and we'll still have the Tyson market to sell into, as its planned reorganization will boost capacity and jobs at other Nebraska plants. The state of Nebraska is ready to build for the future and will do what it can to support employees affected by this change. 3,200 jobs out of a community of 11,000 is insane. It is sad. It's a state of where we're at. And unfortunately, beef has experienced a lot during the pandemic, record prices, record profits. And now there's we hit a 75-year low on these amounts. and all of a sudden people are losing their jobs, and there's no one there for these workers, and it's quite devastating. It is sad to see. It is awful to see, and it just continues. Like food policy is just awful in this country at this point, especially around big agriculture. We covered Joel Salatin's work. We've covered beef price fixing, and it just keeps getting worse. Farmers keep getting hurt, whether it be through soybeans, whether it be for beef pricing and cattle, these plant closures. And it doesn't seem like there's any light at the end of the tunnel anytime soon. So just an awful story, but one I think is important, especially if you work with beef, consume beef, or sell beef, because this is going to have an impact. So it sucks to see. All right, my last story today is going to be this recent report that came out about GLP-1s. We haven't covered them in a while on the show, but I thought this was interesting. This is another one from Food Dive by Sarah Zimmerman. Quote, GLP-1 users to make up 35% of food and beverage sales by 2030. It's wild. And so basically, households with users of GLP-1 medications for weight loss are set to account for more than a third of food and beverage sales over the next 5 years and stand to reshape consumer preferences and purchasing patterns. Around 23% of U.S. households currently have a member using GLP-1 drugs like Ozempic or Wegovy, the report found. By 2030, these households are projected to represent 35% of all food and beverage units sold in the United States. The findings by Circana hold major implications for food and beverage companies who are starting to navigate how GLP-1s impact consumer preferences. Weight loss drugs suppress appetite and push consumers toward healthier and convenient offerings with high protein, fiber, energy, or hydration benefits. Consumers on GLP-1s are more likely to avoid items high in carbs and sugars, making them less likely to pick up a traditional soda or a bag of chips. Quote, the rise of GLP-1 medications is a huge moment for the CPG industry. Sally Lyons Wyatt, a global executive president, vice president, and chief advisor for Circana, said in a statement, quote, our research shows shopper priorities are evolving quickly and dramatically. These shifting preferences have already pushed some food giants to position their products to capture this fast-growing cohort of consumers. Companies like Conagra, Danone, and even ramen maker Nissan have began formulating offerings meant to help consumers meet weight loss goals. One other thing to know is while GLP-1 users are buying less groceries, they still spend more compared to non-users. An ADM report found 80% of consumers taking these drugs are willing to pay more for food and beverage products that provide added health benefits, and 67% said GLP-1 friendly attributes are important factors in purchasing decisions. So, very important. GLP-1 users, while they are buying less groceries, their overall spend is higher because they want better quality products for their limited diet. Companies are also beginning to contemplate how to support consumers who start and stop these medications. 76%, while many consumers may keep their healthier eating habits after ceasing the medication, 76% regained at least some of the weight they lost, which could push them back to restarting GLP-1s. Around 65% of consumers say they would consider restarting GLP-1s to limit food cravings. Quote, the key to future success will be adapting product selections and marketing to line up with the new health-focused mindset of this growing group of shoppers. So, I've covered GLP-1s a lot. I've been early on it. I've been saying it, banging the drum on it. If you are a restaurant, food business, someone who sells to consumers, the fact that 35% of food and beverage sales will be GLP-1 users by 2030 shows you that it's not going away. It's only getting bigger. You can sit there, you can argue, you can say you don't care, you don't want to support people on GLP-1 medications, but the truth is in the data, and the data shares that it's only going to be a larger proportion of people using these drugs. And I highly encourage food businesses and chefs to really look at their offerings and make GLP-1 friendly decisions when they can, or offerings when they can, because it is a growing segment that you can capitalize on. So, with that being said, I hope you all have a great holiday week. I will be back with Justin next week. If you enjoyed this episode, a crazy episode it's been, please hit subscribe and like and comment below with any comments you might have, and I'll see you on the next Repertoire Report.